Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, Concurrent Engineering Made Easy. Our presenter today is Chris Sangrides of Lucello. Chris has over 25 years of experience in engineering document management, including several years working as an independent consultant. He has been with Lucello for over 15 years, providing technical knowledge and professional services recommendations to companies in numerous industries and locations throughout the world. Today, he will help you discover how to simplify complex projects while maintaining your asset data integrity. But before we begin, a bit of housekeeping. I want to let everyone know that you're in listen-only mode. Please make note of any questions you may have as we go along, and at the end of the presentation, we'll invite you to type your questions, which I will then read to Chris for him to answer. Additionally, all those attending today will receive a thank you email from us with the link to view the recorded version of this webinar. So with that, Chris, you can go ahead and begin whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Susan. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris. As Susan said, I'm going to be doing a presentation today on concurrent engineering. And if you guys have any other questions apart from this presentation, please feel free to let us know. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get started. So today's discussion is going to be on concurrent engineering. And concurrent engineering for the owner-operators can have a couple of different meanings, and we'll talk about them both. We'll look at some of the challenges that these bring and also how Lucello can help you simplify these processes. After summarizing some of these benefits, we'll finish by answering with your questions. So let's start the discussion with everyday work being done at plants around the world. To ensure the smooth and efficient operation of a plant, maintenance occasionally makes changes to the field, in the field. And these changes are typically noted as markups on engineering drawings that have been printed out for reference. These markups, in an ideal world, are handed over to engineering so that the changes may be incorporated into the current documentation set. Now, these field changes are happening all over the plant. In this example, a refinery. Some of these changes impact a small area of the plant, some of them a large area of the plant. Over time, numerous changes are made all over the plant, and engineering updates are happening all the time to keep up. This is one kind of concurrent engineering where many changes are happening all at the same time. When we look at the overlap, we have common interdependencies. We encounter another definition of concurrent engineering, and that's where the same documents, such as P&IDs, general arrangements, process guidelines, and the like, need to be changed as part of two or more separate initiatives. So those two kind of concurrent engineering where we have projects happening all over the place independently, and we now also have projects that overlap, that's another kind of concurrent engineering. I want to take a minute right off the bat to ask a question of all of you. What you're going to see in a second is a poll that's going to come up that will ask you a question. How does your organization, how does your company define concurrent engineering? For example, multiple changes to the same plant at the same time, like the first example, or the same documents being changed in multiple projects at the same time, or both, or maybe something else. So we've got most everybody replying, and it looks like both definitions fall into the discussion of concurrent engineering, where multiple changes are happening all over the plant, and the same documentation can be part of multiple changes, which is pretty often the case. And we'll look at both of these cases. So I appreciate your time in replying to those questions, and we'll go ahead and continue. So we're going to go ahead and start the demonstration right away, and we're going to take a look at one of these maintenance changes as the starting point. After making a change in the field, for example, a maintenance worker will document their change in a maintenance management system. We'll show Maximo in this case, but the connection is also available for SAP, PM, Asset Suite, and others. We'll start a demo on the equipment record. There we go. We'll start the demonstration on the equipment record, so that the user is on that piece of equipment they're working on, and then from there we'll see the connection that will show them all of the related technical documentation for that piece of equipment. So let me now switch to that. So what we see here is Maximo a normal implementation of Maximo, and the user is on a piece of equipment, a centrifugal pump in this case. And it would be really nice to be able to see all the technical documentation that's related to this piece of equipment. And with the integration, we could put a button on the screen here, or in this case, we've added a button on the toolbar, and all the user has to do is click once, and they'll get a listing of all the technical documentation about this piece of equipment, from process diagrams, from maintenance manuals, from owner's manuals, etc. Okay, so what we see here is a P&ID, and we want to get more information about it. We want to denote what has changed in the field from the maintenance perspective. So simply click on the document, and we'll see the released version of the document. For example, this is the released drawing, and of course we're sharing a PDF file. Now we also notice a couple of comments that are being made on it historically. An engineer denoted that a change project is going to add a second line, and they also redlined it. And we can see from the red line that this is the area that we anticipate seeing the changes. So this conversation-style discussion is available for the user, the maintenance user, to see and be aware of potential changes in this document. And what he's going to do is denote what has happened. Let's say, for example, we removed and valve from the field, and if the user has a picture or some other kind of reference, they can also attach it as part of the record. So this becomes part of the conversation that the user now is participating in. And as I navigate through and look at each of these discussions, we can see that the removed hand valve and the image that I just attached is part of the conversation cycle here. What I'm also going to do is mark up the drawing and show where on this P&ID the valve existed. So I'm going to zoom into the area that I'm going to redline, and with the markup tools denote that this valve was removed, and even add more information here. For example, removed old and valve no longer in use. Okay, and this note, of course, is going to stay with the document as the document and the commenting progresses. And what's interesting is that my red line I just created here, let me zoom out so we can see everything. My red line that I just created here is actually independent of the red line from the engineer user. I can click on either one of them, and I can see independently which one, which red line was made by each person. Okay, so let me close that. And what I'm going to do is go back to the presentation to see where I am. So far, we saw how a maintenance worker or other users can go into their maintenance systems, quickly find the technical documents for a piece of equipment, and mark up those documents. From here, the comments that was made by maintenance are not lost, actually. They're not just lost in the gamut of information out there. They're tracked, and the appropriate people are notified. We're going to continue the demo with a manager, maybe an engineering or design manager, receiving the notification, and then they'll make a decision to make a project copy of the document and, of course, assign the drafting work. And as part of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and continue as a drafter who's working remotely, and we'll make the changes and submit the document for review. And then, of course, to close the loop back in the office, the manager will approve the changes and update the document. So it's going to be a lot of demo in this section. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the live software. I think we're done here. I'll close this. And what I'm going to do is look in my email, and I noticed that just now we received an email that red lines in the following documents were changed. And the notifications, of course, can be configured, can be built from templates, etc. In this case, we tell the maintenance, the engineering manager where the release document is, and also let them know of a couple of different links. They can launch the Power User client or the web client for making changes, and we'll go ahead and use the Power User in this case. Now what it's doing is launching the Power User of Meridian, and it puts us right on the document that the user from the maintenance marked up. And in this case, we can see those comments directly from here. so the the design manager can decide what to do. And of course, the whole conversation is available for them to look at, including the red lines that were made by the maintenance person. So we'll make a decision here to go ahead and make a change. We'll go ahead and make this change. Now, at the same time, let me click on the Document tab. We see that there's actually another project copy checked out. From this perspective, the engineering manager can see the other project copy. For example, in this case, this is the master document, and clicking on the project copy shows us it's in the major construction project, and we can see what's going on with those. We can compare those documents as well. I'll compare this a little bit later on when we make changes to this document as part of our maintenance change. So I'm okay with that, and now we're going to go ahead and add this document to a work in progress project, which is a small work order project. From the context menu, the engineer manager can simply create a project copy. Now in this case, we're going to be creating, of course, a second project copy. The first one is in the major construction project. We're going to go ahead and make one in the work in progress, for example, a small work order project. So in this case, we're going to be making a second project copy. This dialog box is pretty interesting because the master document has a couple of CAD references. Pump and a vessel document are being referenced into it as a CAD reference. So in this case, do we want to copy these guys into the project as well, because they might change? And in this case, those are not going to change, and I'm going to leave them where they are. But that's very powerful to allow me to take those reference documents and put them into the project as well. Okay, so we'll let the system create our project copy, and in this case, I'm going to go ahead and verify that we do indeed have two project copies. Remember earlier I used this construction icon, this master project browser, to show me the relationship between the master document, and now we have two project copies, and they're both connected to the same master document, and that's perfectly fine within Meridian's concurrent engineering functionality. So what we're going to do here at the same time, we mentioned earlier, we're going to take this document and assign it to a user. A lot of our customers have a document controller or a design manager that delegates the work. Sometimes our customers will take the drawing and start modifying themselves. Edit for order. Okay. So now the document is ready to go, and the user can start changing it. Now, the user, I mentioned the user. Since we're going to say this is an engineering manager that's in the office that had just delegated the work, let's go ahead and exit this program, and let's see what email message a designer is going to get. So this is a potential notification that's being sent to the designer. And remember earlier our scenario, the designer is going to be working from home or remotely, for example. And in this case, they'll get a couple of links. For example, the web link in this case we'll use to jump to the document. And this is using the web client, and of course this can be, user can be anywhere, home, remote site, etc. And they'll understand that they need to work. And right from here, we'll go ahead and open the document. And it will take care of updating references for me, updating any kind of connections, updating metadata, and the user can now start making the changes. And we're going to make the changes in model space, so let me switch to model space. And let me zoom into the area we're going to make the change here. And the simple change we're going to make is simply removing this hand valve, and just press delete. That is done. And if we're done, and in this case the designer is finished, we'll zoom out, make sure things look okay. Things look okay in the layout, and if we need to, we can always update the vault or update the properties from Meridian directly from our CAD application. And this also works directly from the web application too. So let's close our document, and we'll minimize CAD because we're going to use it later. And as far as the designer is concerned, they're finished. They simply upload the document to the server and pass it on to the next step of the workflow. For example, in this case, we're going to go ahead and start the review. Now, the review process, of course, is going to depend on design done. The review process is going to depend on any kind of workflow process or workflow mechanism you guys have configured. In this case, I'm asking the designer to say, hey, what is this change for? It's for an as-built. And as far as the designer is concerned, they're done. They can close this card. For example, this document is now in review. And they can close this card and go on to work on other documents that are in their projects. And of course, using the navigation capabilities, they can filter and show only their documents and continue working. So let's leave the designer from their home office, and we'll go back to the corporate office where the engineering manager is checking their email, and we see that they are now the to-do person for this document, which is now at revision C1, which now needs their approval. Very simply, we jump to the Power User Client, and again, these links put you directly on the document at hand. For example, in this case, it's our project document, and it just needs to be reviewed. Let me turn on the viewer to make sure the geometry is up to date. Yep, looks like the geometry is up to date from our designer. And in this case, what I'd like to do is compare the documents and see what kind of changes have been made, especially compared to the last released or even the next project that's out there. And to do this, I'm going to use the project browser again to show me, and I can compare now one project copy. I'm going to hold down the control key and highlight the next one. What needs to happen to this document to compare it to this document, which is my other project copy. And in this case, we'll get a compare window that will show us the original document, which is the one that our drafter just changed in the top left, and the next project copy in the other window. And of course, in the third window, we'll see all the changes. I'm going to zoom into a part of it here, and we see that the valve that we removed is still in the other project copy. And we see the other project also added the other line and also removed another valve here. Very easy to see and compare. Also, the comparison goes beyond that. It goes into the properties as well. For example, we see the revision number has changed, and also the properties have changed. For example, title have changed, I see here. So all those comparisons are available. So we're done with that. Let's go ahead and close it out. And from the perspective of the manager, we're done, and we go ahead and approve this document. And this approval status is approved. We're done. So now we're ready to release it as a master. And in this case, we're going to notify everyone that's interested. For example, the maintenance workers. Okay. In this case, we're going to go ahead and just tell the system to, there we go, to release the document as a master. And keep in mind that this is the very first document that's being released. The next project, we'll see that these options may change because we now have a new master. We'll get to those in a second. As soon as we do this, notice one thing that's happening in addition to all this discussion. Our project copy is actually automatically put into an archive location. This archive location can trigger your company's document retention rules. We'll go ahead and shrink this out in a second. And now we see our brand new revision, our brand new master, and we can see that this document now has one project copy checked out, which is the major construction project. And it's all red with all kinds of notifications that say, by the way, the master document has changed since this project copy was checked out, which is very important. Okay, so let me pause for a second and bring back this discussion. So what we saw is the engineering change happen. We saw a notification go out to the designers who made a decision to implement the changes that the maintenance worker has requested, and those changes were put through the review process and released. And now what we have is the new or updated master document. The new master document now is released, but what do we know about the maintenance worker? For example, the maintenance worker would be nice to be notified. I'm going to take a look at my email here, and I have a few messages that say we have a brand new master copy of a document. And of course, the connections that are available, including the thumbnail, point the maintenance user to a brand new version of this document. Jumping into here, we see the updated revision is available. Updated revision is available for us, and also the user can simply click on the thumbnail to see the very latest updated copy, and zooming into the valve, that is also gone as well. So the maintenance worker has initiated a change. It has gone through the change of the engineering process, and now the document is updated. Okay, so let me switch back to our discussion here. And I actually just showed you this, the notification of the update to the maintenance user through any kind of an email notification, and of course links to take them to the right locations. So a very common case for concurrent engineering is when design documents are being changed for an expansion project that will take months to incorporate. And this was actually a third of the answers that came from you guys. Half of you guys said both are the definition, where multiple changes are happening all over the place, and also when design documents are being changed in-house and also need to be referred to from project documents. So these small changes, coupled with expansion projects, make it imperative that we have up-to-date information. Without these up-to-date information, the projects will take longer, will cost more, and we'll have a more cumbersome handover process. And actually, we'll talk about handovers in just a minute. So while we're now shifting our discussion from maintenance changes to project changes, I want to take a moment and get your opinion or get a feedback from you to let us know, on average, how many small work order type changes does your plant undergo in a year? If your company has multiple plants, let's just pick one for example. Is it less than 30? Is it less than 100 or more than 100, for example? So 25% said it's between 31 and 100, which is quite a lot, especially considering that some of these plants can be small, some of them can be quite large. Okay, thanks again for your time and feedback. So while maintenance and operation teams ensure the plant runs optimally 24/7, the engineering team ensures that the design documents correctly reflect reality in the world, right? These teams, the engineering and the maintenance teams, need to easily and smoothly exchange information. The example we just saw, where the information about a field change from maintenance needs to be handed over or made available, right, to engineering. That's one kind of handover. And vice versa, the updated design documents from engineering need to be handed over or made available to maintenance, right? This kind of handover information is critical for the safe and efficient operation of a plant. So we couple that with major projects such as turnarounds, expansions, and the like. Then the handover information is multiplied, and its accurate exchange, for example, from maintenance to engineering, from engineering to contractors, for example. This is very, very critical. So Blue Cello's solutions are built from the ground up with these kinds of handovers in mind. So let me take a second to explain a concept that we saw, but I want to dive in a little bit more. Asset lifecycle information management involves, at its core, the relationship between technical documents that we just saw, like a P&ID, and their related assets, for example, the pump that the maintenance worker was working on. This tag-doc relationship is used by operations and maintenance to find the relevant data and documentation about certain assets and equipment for like everyday operations. As large projects are planned, the same set of data, documents, and tag-doc relationships are used, for example, in the evaluation and selection process of the asset and project portfolio. This involves commissioning new or decommissioning old assets, and also the buying and selling of entire plants. Once selected, these sets of data and documents are handed over to one or more contractors, right, which are managed as part of the project performance management. At the completion of these projects, new or updated data, of course, is handed over and incorporated into the maintenance and operations process. So there's a lot of handover going on here, and of course, the execution of these handover is very important. Okay? So let's take a look at some of the components of Blucello's asset lifecycle information management solution and how these can be implemented piece by piece or in full, depending on the biggest need of your organization. For example, the centrally available masters repository holds all technical documentation related to the assets along with their tag doc relations. Based on the tag doc relations, operations, maintenance, and others can easily find all the technical documentations, including older revisions if you choose. This can be through a fast web client, like we saw the Explorer client lastly, or through the intelligent integration to your maintenance management systems. When executing a work order, for example, all assets, asset-related documentation is immediately at hand. That's kind of important. So through maintenance activities, requests for modifications can be initiated, like we just saw. Some documents might be required in multiple projects at the same time, resulting in what we're calling here concurrent engineering. Owner-operators typically outsource project changes to contractors, and Blucello has various solutions for data exchange. One of them is through what we call a project portal. Other webinars can cover this topic in depth, actually. So at the end of the project, a new or updated master data is released to the master repository. The entire project content can also be archived, like we saw earlier. So what we're going to focus now is one of the capital or change projects. And just like we asked you guys a second ago, how many everyday work order changes happen in your plant, I'd like to also ask you one last poll question. And how many large modification projects does your plant typically undergo in a year? Is it in the range of 1 to 3, around 10, or is it more than 10? Okay. With those answers, I appreciate that, Susan. It looks like about half of the audience has about 4 to 10 major projects happening at plants every year. But of course, that's coupled with roughly more than 100 everyday changes. So we need to be able to juggle all these at the same time. So thank you very much, and we'll go ahead and continue with the presentation. So from that, we're going to continue with the demonstration, and in this case, we're going to continue it from the engineering side. For example, we just released a brand new master document from an everyday work order, and we're going to compare that to a current project and see what's going on. So let me jump to Meridian for a second. We're done with this Explorer guy. We're done with email for a while. And here we are in Meridian looking at the latest master of this drawing. Excuse me. And we do see that we have project copy checked out still, and this is our major project copy. And we compared it as well, so we know we need to give it some attention before we release it. Now, the changes that have been incorporated here are the ones that came back from the contractor. So what I'd like to do is jump to this document, and what we need to do now is essentially merge the changes and then release this as a new master. Now, how do I know we need to merge the changes? Some of the concurrent engineering functionality that's implemented allows the user to check on this and be able to know what's going on with it. For example, I'm not allowed to release this as a master just yet. That option is not available because we have a newer master than this project copy. That's very important. So what we need to do is confirm that we merge the geometry. And that's what we're going to do right now is merge the geometry. Let me switch back because that was actually one topic, the comparison. We saw that a little bit earlier. And now what we're going to do is merge the differences between our current master and the project copy that's still outstanding. So let's do that right now. So what we saw is in order to make this master, this project copy, compare to the master, let's go ahead and compare those from that perspective. And we see that the current project copy here and the current released version, in the current released version, it looks like our project copies have been removed, which we need to keep, of course, and of course our valve has been removed. And we need to repeat this step now as part of the merging process. And of course, part of the merging process can be to make sure that other metadata, for example, title information, version information, is also up to date. So the merging process will essentially be to, let me go ahead and zoom into this area again, to essentially repeat the geometry changes that were done as part of our work order changes. So now we have an updated master. Essentially now it reflects both changes, the removal of the valve and also the addition of the new line and also the removal as part of the project of our previous valve here. Switching to the layout, looks everything's fine. Let's go ahead and close this, save on the way out, and we'll switch back to Meridian. So now our geometry is up to date, and as far as the engineering process is concerned, we have merged the geometry. Now this document is still under change, and what we'd like to do is go ahead and issue it. We can allow different workflow processes for internally changed documents and, of course, documents that are coming back from contractors. In this case, we'll go ahead and just issue it directly, and we'll say OK. It's an as-built, and in this case, it is, of course, approved. Now, what I'm going to do is take a look at the project menu that's available now. After we've approved this document, we can now tell the system that we have confirmed that the, yep, Maximo is going to log me out. That's okay. We can confirm that the geometries have been merged, and now we can release this as a brand new master. On the other side of the coin, if we have a brand new master document that's been released from a project that has revamped a certain section of the plant, and at a later time we come across a change from the field that says, hey, by the way, this pump was changed from pump A to pump B, but that whole area of the plant has been revamped, then in that case, that change request actually is superseded by the master, right? We have a more, is that the right way to say it, a more newer master. But in this case, in this particular case, we're going to confirm that the changes have been merged, and of course, we are now allowed to release it as a master. And of course, these kinds of actions that we see, like confirm, merged, or received from contractor, etc., those are all tracked and those are all audited. And we can, of course, see them and backtrack on these changes. So now we have our brand new document in the master's repository here, and of course our project copies archived according to our document retention rules. And of course now we are at revision D, and all of the historical revisions are stored and are tracked within the system, all using the same name, all using the same folder. So let me now switch back to our presentation, make sure we're on track here. So we did the merging of the changes, and we did release a single unified master, essentially. And from that perspective, the same notifications are going to happen again, where maintenance will be notified of a brand new master again, or anyone else can be notified, for example. That notification is very flexible. That notification can be configured to notify a plant manager, a discipline manager, etc., and they can be notified of the brand new changes. Now, we saw those changes a little bit earlier, but let me show you this again. From email, we see that we have another project copy release, and now it is at revision D, the very latest again. And of course, from here we can choose any of the appropriate links that you can configure. And in this case, we'll choose the Explorer link. And of course, the user can see the latest changes directly from their maintenance management system as well. In this case, I'm just skipping that step and going directly to the document. And it will show us the updated geometry. And of course, as part of the engineering process or design process, we can either approve or close these comments as we have privileges to do so. Okay. So we have seen a work order change, and at the same time we saw a large project change, and we saw how they can be merged together and now release a new master. We have customers making use of this concurrent engineering solution for over 10 years because of the sustainable value we deliver. For example, let me go ahead and point out a few things. For example, reduction in cost is a big one. It is realized through the reduction of downtime by having immediate availability of all necessary as-built data, which leads to quicker repairs, saving a little or a lot, depending on the incident or the industry. Also, regulatory compliance is an important factor as well. The full proof of control, and also to be able to prove that you have fully documented plan, both help with internal and external audits. We have over 1,200 plus customers who are all over the world in over 50 countries with more than 300,000 users. They are managing a combined $1.5 trillion worth of assets with Blucello software. These are just some of our customers that are using concurrent engineering today. You can hear and see them discuss their use of it on our website under the resources videos. Let me go to our website and show you. For example, from the resources site, go to videos, and there you'll see a lot of pre-recorded videos with our customers discussing a lot of these benefits. Grifols, for example, a pharma customer, uses concurrent engineering in a highly regulated environment, and their discussion can also be found under the Product's Advanced Project Workflow page. This is the actual software module that delivers the concurrent engineering functionality within Meridian, and the recorded presentation is here, and you can view it directly. So I'm going to go ahead and move the discussion up 10,000 feet, for example. We talked about one plant undergoing these changes. A lot of our customers have multiple plants. A lot of our customers are actually looking at centralization. And we see this as an increasingly important topic when it comes to IT and services, such as internal services, such as engineering, design teams, for example. So the need for concurrent engineering actually increases. Blucello Solutions allows our customers to leverage designs and engineering teams from anywhere to share the workload. These solutions can be implemented quickly using Blucello's industry template. The industry template is actually a configuration that's already configured with best practices, such as the process industry practices and applicable ISO standards. The template speeds up implementation and can also be part of your regulatory compliance, such as FDA. That's on the high end of regulation. For example, these are some of the results our customers have seen after implementing the template. For example, a return on investment, which compares the cost of the software and the implementation versus the savings and benefits realized, makes the value of the solution almost 4 times the cost of implementation. And also, many of our customers have seen a payback period of less than 1 year, which is great. I'm going to go ahead and just pause there for a second. This is the end of our presentation, both the PowerPoint and also live demonstration. I want to see if we can open it up for questions. Susan, can you help guide the users on how to pose the questions?
Yep. Thanks, Chris. So again, if anyone has any questions at this time, please just enter them into the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and I'll read them to Chris for him to answer. So first question here is, you showed a drawing going into 2 projects. Does that also work with other files like procedures in Microsoft Word format?
So the question has to do with the file types that this kind of concurrent engineering works with. And yes, the kind of flagging that we saw with the document being sent to multiple projects, that does work with other kinds of files as well. Word documents for procedures, spreadsheet for budgets, etc., those kind of things. So that's very easy to do. The checks and balances are still going to be the same, where we have a flag to show us that the document from multiple projects needs to be merged into a final master.
Okay, another question here. How is the revision of the major project copy at revision D.1? I presume it was issued out as a copy of revision B?
Actually, yeah, that's a good question. It's very observant there. The revisioning that we saw going from the original revision B of the master to the work order was actually at C. That was automatic, and actually you may have seen it go to C1, and if we had looped around the approval process from designer to manager, for example, that would have gone to C2, C3, C4. That's just part of the revisioning mechanism that you can configure in the system. That's one of the ways I've configured it. When we went to the project copy at revision D, I had previously changed the revision to D, so I didn't have to make all those changes manually in front of you. I mean, I did the geometry changes, but also I mentioned that the data merging would need to happen, and that was part of the data merging that we talked about.
Okay. Next question here. Is there a limit to the number of concurrent copies of a document?
So concurrent copies I'll take to mean as in out to concurrent projects. And no, there is no technical limit to that. You can have as many as you want. But practically in usage, you may want to set a practical limit, maybe 5 or 6 or 10, depending on the changes that you guys experience. From the feedback we got, some plants underwent hundreds of changes per year, so we may need to have a document in several projects at the same time. So from a practical limit, you may want to set limits, but from a technical perspective, no, there is no limit.
Okay. Is there a limit to the number of concurrent projects the system can manage at one time?
So that's actually dovetails into the document question earlier. And no, there is no limit. I guess I should say there is no technical limit to the number of projects that you can have at the same time. We have some of our customers that for work order changes, they bundle it into one project called work in progress. We have some customers that have a unique project per work order project, for example, where they can bundle the technical documents, the work order reports, any images, or paper forms that the users will use to scan and put back in. So there is no technical limit on that either.
Okay. Our organization has existing document records. Does Blucello have the ability to extract the tag-doc relationships from these records?
Yes. There's actually 3 ways that you can relate your technical documents to tags. For example, the most ideal world out there, if you're using a tool like AutoCAD P&ID or some other tool that uses intelligent blocks in your drawings that define a piece of equipment with attributes such as a tag number, maybe a vendor, descriptor, etc., we can read those attributes and bring them into Meridian and make a connection to any existing tags that you've shared with your maintenance system. Another way to do it is, just like you mentioned, is to read the drawing itself and make a match to tags just by looking at text. Meridian has the capability of doing a full text search in your AutoCAD drawings, MicroStation files, even Word and Excel files, for example, for procedures. If they relate to one piece of equipment, they'll have that equipment number on there. So we can do a full text search on those documents, and if it matches a pattern of names that you've told us from your maintenance system, we can make that connection. There's also one level deeper you can go, and of course there's probably a lot of gray area here. A lot of our customers have legacy paper files that will scan into Meridian. Actually, if you scan them into a TIFF format, we can even do an OCR on those TIFF files and make the full text search available to those as well. But of course, the quality of the OCR is going to depend on the quality of the scanned document. So you get grayer and grayer results as you get, I guess, more unclear documents coming into the system. And of course, the third way is to do a manual one. For example, if you have a picture, there's no text. There's nothing to relate to a piece of equipment, and you can do that in manual way. So there's 3 ways to do that.
Okay, let's just take another question or two here. You referenced a power user client and an Explorer client. What's the difference between the two?
Good question. The power user client that I mentioned earlier is typically used by a group of users we call contributors, designers, engineers, folks that are going to be creating or modifying content essentially. That's the power user client. And it also has an analogous web client as well. That's the example I gave you with the designer working from home. Those are intended for people that are going to be contributing, changing content. The Explorer client I mentioned earlier is the connection that we saw directly on top of Maximo. That is intended to be for consumers, people that need to read, search, print the documentations being managed. So those 2 clients work hand in hand. We find that there is a lot smaller group of people that are going to be changing and modifying content, and they need more powerful capabilities. And a larger amount of people that are going to need to just be able to reference those technical documents. And that's what the Explorer client is intended for.
All right. Let's just take one more question.
You bet.
We're a current customer using Meridian 2012. How does this solution work with that?
So with 2012, I mentioned earlier that the concurrent engineering capability has been around for a long time. And actually 2012 has the availability for you to add this module to it. But actually 2012 is coming up on a few years old. It's getting long in the tooth. Would probably suggest you upgrade to a later release. If you're on maintenance, you automatically have access to that, and then jump into adding the concurrent engineering module to it, which is called the Advanced Project Workflow.
All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you, Chris, for your answers. If we didn't answer your specific question, we will definitely have somebody follow up with you to do so. Otherwise, if you have any additional questions, would like details on other upcoming events, or would like to watch any of our past webinars on demand, you can use the links provided on the screen. And also as a reminder, all those attending will receive a thank you email from us with the link to view the recorded version of this webinar. And lastly, when you close your GoToWebinar browser today, you'll be prompted to fill out a short 5-question survey. We ask that you please just take a few moments to provide us with your feedback so that we can continue to improve our webinars. So with that, thank you everyone so much for attending, and have a great day.